In February of this year, a gunman opened fire at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland and murdered 17 students, teachers, and staff. Following the tragedy, new legislation in Florida raised the minimum age to purchase a firearm, banned bump stocks, and provided funding for mental health assistance in schools and for arming some teachers and staff. Congressman DeSantis, Republican Governor Rick Scott signed this legislation into law. You say you would have vetoed it. Why?
You know, Jake, last year at the congressional baseball game, we had a shooting, and Steve Scalise, my friend, got shot. I was 3 minutes away from being in that fire, and that really, I think, shocked me. But I can tell you, Casey and I are young parents, and Parkland, even though I wasn't there, even though the congressional shooting was much closer to me, Parkland had more of an effect on my wife and me because of our two young children. So I think that the school security is something. I'm working with Andy Pollack, whose daughter Meadow tragically lost her life there. We are going to fix it in terms of school security. I think the blanket restriction on age is going to get struck down by the courts. I'm a big supporter of the school security. I think we need to do more. And I think we have to take some of these people who are causing problems like this killer. He should have been convicted of crimes. He should have been Baker acted. He should not have been on the streets. And so I'm going to work with Andy. I'm going to work with our law enforcement people to identify those people who should not have access to weapons and indeed should not be on the street at all.
Mayor Gillum?
The congressman was against the piece of legislation because he is wholly owned by the NRA. He's not going to stand up to the National Rifle Association. That's why they're running all these ads against me, because they want the man that they bought. In my case, we're prepared to stand up to the NRA. They sued me. They drugged me through court for 2 years, all because we said we would not allow guns to be shot in a city park. Radical. That you cannot shoot guns in a park where our kids play and our families picnic. That's why people are so incensed by this, that because common sense and decency seem not to be able to prevail in this conversation.
Well, I think the problem that Andrew has, though, is that his record as mayor is one providing over a city that's out of control in terms of crime. When you have the record number of murders, in fact, the guy running to succeed him as mayor was his former chief of staff, and he's sending out literature to voters saying, most murders in history last year, something needs to change. That's right. Andrew couldn't keep Tallahassee safe. He's not the guy to keep Florida families safe.
All right. Well, Ron is being Don, and that's Donald Trump, neglecting all sense of reason and facts. I preside over a city that is experiencing a 5-year low in our crime rate, on trajectory to be at a 20-year low in our crime rate. No matter of restatement of what he has to say is going to change the facts. This is CNN, not Fox. You have to bring facts to the conversation.
Record number of murders last year, yes or no?
And in our case, we are the 8th largest city and are 27th in crime. This is what Florida voters understand. What Florida voters understand is that communities will experience crime. Just in Jacksonville earlier today, 6 people shot. The question is, what are we going to do about it? And what I'm going to do is take on the NRA and hold them responsible for the rampant crime in our communities.
I want to ask you, Mayor Gillum, Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel is a supporter of your campaign. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement is currently investigating Sheriff Israel for his handling of the Parkland massacre, even though he told me in an interview that he thought his leadership was amazing. Do you think his leadership was amazing?
No, I don't. I think there were failures on many sides, quite frankly. I think Scott Israel is independently elected by the people of Broward County, and they're the ones who will have a say about what they think about his job. But more importantly, it is an easy tactic to go after Scott Israel rather than actually taking on the folks who are complicit in the kind of rampant violence that we see, not only in our schools, but in our neighborhoods. Our kids right now are going to school having to be taught what to do in active shooter drills, rather than learning arts and science and language arts and history and culture and politics. Parents are literally terrified that if they drop their kids off at school, they want to know when they go to pick them up, will they pick them up alive or in body bags. That is unacceptable in this state. And we deserve a governor who is going to stand up to one of the largest and most powerful lobbies who stand in the way of any form of common sense gun reform.
Well, the way to keep people safe is to have accountability for the people that let our communities down, our parents. Sheriff Israel let that community down. The school board and the school administrator let the community down. They adopted a promise program which said if a student is getting into trouble, we're going to pretend that he's not committing offenses. That individual should have been arrested. And of course, the FBI, who ignored that plea for help from that great lady in January. Nobody has been fired at the FBI. We have a crisis of accountability at all levels of government. I think Israel should have been removed from office by the governor, and I think there needs to be change in both Broward and in the FBI as a result of this failure.